My name's Sherwin Salonga. I am born and raised in Carson. I am a krump dancer by BabyTightEyez, aka Beast, aka Striker, aka Street Beast. I have a lot of dance names. Creator of Beast Camp, a part of the Tight fam, Street Kingdom, or Straight Krump. So I'm just a full-time artist, but mostly with movement. So I've been doing krump dancing for almost 14 years and starting to explore other styles, but for sure krump is my main forte. Krump is a raw expression. That's all it is. So krump is a freestyle dance. It started in South Central LA by the creators TightEyez and Miho, with the pioneers that followed after. What made it really popular was the movie Rise. I think it's on some Netflix accounts around the world. But yeah, so krump is just it was just something that was made to survive like the environment that the creators were in. So they were around like broken homes, gang banging, like, you know what I mean, like poverty, oppression, all of that. So they were already dancing with clown dancing, but they needed something a bit more honest. So they were starting to innovate their own moves and their own culture to create krump. So it's just a reflection of what they were being surrounded from. So if you see a lot of our dance moves, and it could be like ripping something apart, or like it looks like we're punching the air, or like we got weapons, like, you know, it's like a safe space to like express that instead of actually doing it, or, you know, especially in battle. So yeah, it's really raw, but it's really uplifting as well. So krump does have an acronym. Krump's acronym is Kingdom Radically Uplifted Mighty Praise. So yeah, that came to TightEyez in a dream, probably in the early 2000s. And yeah, that's a krump in a nutshell. It debatably has been around since like 1999, 2000s. So it barely hit like its 20-year mark. Was that last year? So yeah, it's fairly new. It's still going through its phases, and which it will always go through. But yeah, it's fairly young, still misunderstood a lot, especially because of how raw it is. And maybe some people are uncomfortable seeing the truth. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like how people are uncomfortable hearing the truth. Maybe people are uncomfortable seeing it. So when people see like kind of pain being expressed like in art, or just power. Like people really think krump is an angry dance, but it's just really powerful. So they're kind of misunderstanding power and anger, because if you see someone like throw something like that, on the outside it looks like anger, but on the inside that's what's empowering me, you know? So krump is still, you know, and I think it'll forever be misunderstood because everyone has a different perspective of art, and especially how honest it is. So, you know, I discovered krump from my family, so I am the youngest of four. My older sister, I have an older sister and two older brothers, and my older sister, she just came through like, hey, you guys need to watch this movie Rise, and we watched it together, and immediately we just started dancing. And yeah, I just felt like I related to the stories, you know, like, just being around the culture of gang banging, of not paying the bills, seeing your parents struggle financially, like moving from house to house, not being able to wear a certain color. Like my oldest brother was heavily involved in gang banging too, so sometimes we would move because like people were looking for our family type stuff, you know. I didn't learn till I was older that like certain situations was like that. So yeah, I just related to their stories more than their dance moves, and that's what made me want to get into krump, was because like I need that voice, like I need that expression, because if you asked me like 14 years ago to do like an interview like this, I would have said no, because I was a shy kid, you know. I was dealing with not just being the youngest of four, but like, you know, being like not confident in myself. So yeah, what I feel when I'm in a round in Krump, I mean before, your goal is to always like have one of those perfect rounds, those like you just want to be the best at that moment, and you want to feel the greatest. What we call it is live, like you want to feel live. But yeah, I mean, during the process, like there's just so much to think about, so much emotions, so much things to kind of control, so much things to think about of like what timing it is. But at the end of the day, like it's just a good escape from your regular life. You know what I mean? So even though I'm stressing about moves or trying to get that perfect round that we always want, it always gives us joy more than like pursuing just anything at that moment, because we're away from our regular life and we are doing all of our energy to focus in just this craft. So it's really a getaway. It's something that we can, it's like a good stress. Like you want to, just put all that energy into something that you know is going to fulfill you. And some people even call dance or Krump therapy. So to get lost into a world, or even when you use like real life inspirations, like this happened today, either if it's bad or good, you could literally use that in your round. You know what I mean? Like if you didn't pay like your phone bill, like you could use that concept, like that your phone bill is a. So that's why Krump is so raw, because it gives that open space to do that. Like you can literally almost tell like any story like in Krump. I felt like Krump for sure helped me discover myself. I'm a big believer of like you just have to unlock your potential. You have to unlock like your inner personality. So I believe through art and through dance or through movement, you get to do that. So if you're a musician, if you're a dancer, or even if you're involved in sports, like it's really gonna push your limits of your personality. Is like a do or die thing. So when you start to put yourself in those situations, like what they say, like pressure creates diamonds. So it's like, so every little battle I had, or every little situation I had to be like, hey, like it's a dance party, you gotta dance now. And I'm like, right now? While I'm just chilling, or when family members like they discover, oh, so you dance right now, like in front of grandmas, in front of kids. And those situations like kind of push me to step up, to speak up, to show up, and no matter what the result was, like that was the ongoing process. So the more people were finding out I was dancers, they're like, oh, we need you to perform here. And then maybe the crowd is at a church, or maybe the crowd is at a lounge or a hookah bar or an open mic with just poets. And we would be the only dancers. So it's like we had to adapt. And so for sure, just anything in a craft, you diving into it, you're kind of like letting it like be a mirror. You know what I mean? You're letting it be a mirror to show like your real self. So if you're like, for me, when I was in certain battles, I didn't know I was capable of like stepping up to like taller people than me, or even people that was like better, like that had years more experience than I did. But because I was put in that situation, it was like a do or die thing. And I came out of it, some of them I came out of it like alive, or like I won. I was like, oh. So, and then that's when my self-confidence started to go up. And so it's still an ongoing thing too. Like I'm still discovering a lot about myself. And it's really because of like this craft. What kept me grounded, and I was lucky to be raised in studying the greats. You know what I mean? Like Michael Jackson said that just really look at all the greats, and they studied the greats. That was something that I saw in common of like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, like Muhammad Ali, like Conor McGregor, like Bruce Lee. They would study the greats. And a lot of the greats, they already admitted that you have to fail. Like failing is part of succeeding. But because we grow up like in a school system that failing is the worst thing to do, we are afraid of failing. You know what I mean? But that's not applicable in real life. Like you have to take that step forward. Even if you fall, you're gonna fall forward. You know what I mean? So I always have this thing, I think I learned it from one of the coaches, either it's Conor McGregor or one of these fighters like Mayweather. It's like you win or you learn, you know? So I love being in those situations where I'm learning. You know, I love being a lifelong student, especially being at my level to where like it's kind of hard to know something new about Krump. Like, yes, like I could do something different, but the foundation of it is still the same. So me diving into other styles and me having to repeat like losing and being whacked all day, I'm actually enjoying that because I'm learning so much, not just about the craft, but about myself. Like how it exposes it. Like how do you, with a craft and it's a safe space, how do you respond to defeat? You know, and it's just a safe space like dance. So now that you know how you respond, and then you could critique it like, okay, I got too emotional, or I didn't prepare for next time, that's why I failed again. So now those lessons you could actually do in real life. You know, like, oh, like why didn't I get that job interview? Because I didn't prepare. Okay, let me fix that error. Boom, and then I'm gonna get the next job. So that's what dance, like failing a lot in dance helped me. It was like, okay, I lost this battle. But why? Well, I didn't really lab or like I didn't really practice. It was like, okay, that's why. So let me fix that error. So now, like I said, it's a mirror. So now when I go in real life and I fail, I ask myself like, well, what can I do to overcome it? And what naturally comes into your mind is what you've been practicing like majority of your life, you know? So yeah, I enjoy that process. And yeah, even like Michael Jordan said, like he missed more than his actual like game-winning shots. You know what I mean? Like,
wow.
Like I'm a big believer of like failing privately. Like I fail a lot. Like in this studio, even though I've been here just for a couple months, like I'm here every week, and almost every round that I do, I'm not satisfied because I'm trying to push to that next level.
Yeah.
But those are the failing process that I need. So when I go out in public, like let's say to the public session later, they don't know like what I've learned to where all the stuff that I know what to do, I'm gonna do at the public sessions, you know?
Wow.
So it's like you need to fail. Like you have to. Like that's part of the process. And if you're scared of that, you're gonna stand still. Krump is a very, like, because it's raw, it requires you to be either dominant or not, you know? So you're gonna have to have some type of ego. But if that ego is overweighing you, then you're gonna lose, because that ego is telling you you have to be perfect. You have to crowd please. You have to make your friends proud. Like those are the type of ego like that's starting to control you. But if it's like when you start to control it and say like, well, you know what, I'm in this position for this certain battle. I get to uplift whoever I'm battling, like no matter what the result is, you know, or like, yeah, like let me just find a way to maybe entertain everybody, especially for my level, is everyone like, you know, kind of traveled their ways or is excited to see me dance. So let me take that responsibility. So it's just you have to control your ego. Like you can't say like, oh, like let me put that away, you know? Like you have to really let it turn into a positive. So yeah, if you let it overrun you and have these weird expectations, like I have to perform, I have to be perfect, like yeah. So especially after you win, like, you know, like you have to calm that down and get back into the lab, get back into training. That's a good step forward. But again, you're gonna take that 2 steps back like immediately. So be careful, because once you get that good win, you're gonna get knocked down again. It may not be from a battle. It could just be from life. It could be from a random practice. It could be from this. I feel like this year I'm getting way better at controlling, because there are times to not seek validation. I think for me it's more of affirmations. That's normal. We are social creatures. Words bring life or death. So you do need a good group of people to affirm you, like, hey, you're doing a good job and all that. But validation is like you're trying to get everybody to love you, and that's false. Even if like the greatest people, like even like Jesus, like even he was here and not everybody followed him because he still had doubters, haters, and all that. So I remember my pastor telling me that, and I was like, oh, well, if that happened to him, it's going to happen to all of us because he had all the authority and all that, but it still didn't work out that way, So yeah, I think it's fine to affirm, and I would love to talk about, like, we do need to get better at affirming our friends, I'm a big like Jordan Peterson fan, and he says, and he really talks about like having friends that are good for you, and when you say good news, they should celebrate for you. And especially with men, like all we need is just that little, man, good job, bro. Not like compare, like, man, good job. I remember when I did something like that. It's like it kind of taints it, So I've been working on that myself because I'm a competitor. I'm a natural competitor. So when I see someone do good, I'm like, I could do better. I had to, again, you have to calm that ego down to say, oh yeah, like I'm good. I'm happy for you because you're on my team and we're winning if you're winning. That's better than like, oh, okay, than like healthy competition or stuff like that. So that's one with validation. And with expectation, you just have to find balance. And I think, the expectation that should be the loudest is your own expectation. You know what I mean? So it's up to you. What expectation do you want to listen to? Others or your own? And sometimes what your expectations are is not the coolest thing to say. You know what I mean? Like my expectations is like, well, like I've done battles like that, especially me being in my platform or my position. I'm like, well, let me uplift the brother and say, hey, he's a good battler to where, look, he can hang with me, So that kind of pushed me to be like kind of passing the torch down, So I feel like that's where I'm at in my career when I'm battling these young, fresh cats into the game, and their expectation is like, he has to beat, BabyTightEyez because he's the next one up. So if I feed into that, I'm gonna get stressed out. But if I just think, well, I think that's facts because I'm not gonna do this forever. Maybe he could do it better than me. So what can I do to help uplift that versus like, let me shut them up. We have things called like families. So I'm in the TightEyez family. I created the Beast family, but I just changed it to Beast Camp. But for sure, the Krump community was like my second family, because I grew up in a broken home, divorced parents and all that, and I needed people to relate to, especially my age. So when I was doing this in high school, I got mad love from my brothers and sisters, but they're kind of like 2 years older than me, 5 years older, 7 years older. So, it's not a lot, but it's still a lot of distance. So, I think the Krump community for sure gives that space to have that second chance and finding that social like gatherings, and because you're exchanging raw emotion and movement, you start to trust people already because it's like, dang, you trusted me with these raw moves. You could look silly, we could have laughed at you, some stuff, but you trusted us, we hype you up. So that kind of opens the door to like talk about real life stuff, So making friends in the Krump community, in my opinion, is really easy because when you see someone dance, you naturally want to go up to them and say, yo, like I felt that. Whatever you're going through or your story inspired me. And right there, like that's where most of conversations come in after I dance anyways, You got to learn a lot. And like what they say, even though like I'm teaching, TightEyez is teaching, Big Mijo's teaching, like the greatest teacher though is experience, So for you to experience how to apply what I just taught is actually the greater teacher than than me like exactly telling you what a skill is, like what can this do. That doesn't apply until you're actually in the field. So that's like real life too. You could hear the greatest advice ever, but when you're faced with a situation to actually apply it and you don't do it, then the knowledge isn't wisdom, you know? So that's the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Because wisdom is you're actually walking and trying it out and failing and all that. So for me to kind of get into like my university background, like the Greek word for sin is missing the target. Wow. So most people think like sin is like you're just doing bad things. It's like, no, if you think about missing the target, now you could be more graceful to people because, well, at least he was aiming at a target. And then judge the target. If the target is so high that they want to be perfect and all that, and they aimed at it and maybe went like this close to it, then you could be more graceful to them because, dang, they got so close to maybe the highest target, and that's what they're aiming at. You know, instead of just like, oh, he didn't have a good round today. It was like, no, like he didn't have a good round because he was trying to apply this technique, and then within a hostile environment of like a battle. The more I get into my career and the stuff that I go through, like family, like drama, like outside drama, like me being in this position and kind of like the ins and outs and, you know, like how people expectations and all of that, like it makes me think of TightEyez because it's like, man, he's been doing this for years and he always overcame it and he never stopped, and he never stopped getting better. You know, so when I go through like just one piece of like what he was going through, I would talk to him like, bro, like, how are you not insane? Like, this is driving me crazy of like these expectations, this drama, this rumors and all of that. And you're still here like doing your thing, still trying to like pursue like giving to the community, you know? So for sure, TightEyez, he's always my inspiration because, the deeper I get into my career and like the higher I get, it just makes me relate to him even more, not like as a fan, not like as a student, but someone that's like maybe like a peer, like, yo, this isn't fun, you know, and it's crazy. So, TightEyez, outside of dance, for sure, it's always like Bruce Lee. I love like his philosophies of movement. I love how he just thinks like being simple and direct, you know? So that's where most of my formulas for dance come in, is like, what's the simplest way I could feel good? Instead of like trying to do 50 of the basics, let me just do 3 of them really good and all of them would kind of come together, you know? And then, as I mentioned, like Jordan Peterson, I love his books. I love how he speaks about just really adopting responsibility, you know? And as a man, like, that's a hard topic to kind of admit that as men, we are called to grasp like the greatest responsibility that we can have, you know? And that's where my faith even comes in, to where like, if our Savior came here to carry the heaviest load, and we are called to follow him, then we are called to find the heaviest load within our life, if it's family, if it's financial, and try to carry that, you know? And then we start to realize we need more strength than our own. So I'm getting older. I'm 28 right now. I would love to like have a family, you know, soon, buy a house, you know, be stable within like whatever income that comes in, you know. So that's that. I do want to experience that. And then for my friends, since most of my friends are dancers or the people that I teach, like I would love for them to be employed by me, you know, because they helped me so much in my career, to where I want one of their revenues of income is from what we've been building. Like, we've been having dreams for like maybe a decade of like, we can do this like in a very high level, you know? So I think we're really tapping into that this year with the website. And just yesterday we launched one of my best students. He's from New York, and he has his classes on my website, and like it's doing well. Like, people are buying it and all that. So it just pumps me up. Like, he has a newborn son, so that's like my godson. So now it's just becoming deeper. Like, man, I want to help you pay for his diapers or whatever. You know what I mean? So so for my family, I would love to do that, and then for the movement, I just want to maybe do the same with what I'm doing with my family, but to the movement, But it's like my family gets first dibs of like whatever I'm trying to do and whatever I can provide. For sure, my family's first. And then if they're good, they're okay, they're eating, all that, then the movement, But for me, I feel like one of my callings for the movement is just to really speak about like vulnerability. And I know Krump is such a raw culture, but sometimes the Krump character that you are isn't your real personality. You know what I mean? So when the dancing is done, you can be vulnerable. You can say like, I'm going through this in life. You can say like, I'm not perfect. You can say like, So that's what I try to portray a lot. And again, like, it may be uncomfortable, but I think there's a lot of healing that could be done in that,
Yeah. Man.
Yeah. When I won EBS, the Krump World Championships in 2017, I didn't really plan on entering because they didn't know if I was going to judge it or not, because one of the judges couldn't make it from the USA. So I didn't know. I had some moves prepared, and then when I found out or decided that I wanted to join, again, this is, how you can control your ego. Like, this is in front of thousands, in front of thousands, and they have this certain expectation of you. And I said, no, I just want to show like a real version of Krump on a stage of like a tournament. So like a tournament, you only have 1 minute, and usually in Krump rounds, we can go like 5 minutes because we're really trying to dig deep and tell a story. So to dumb that down for a minute and you're trying to do these moves to win could be really like problematic for people. Like, if you see in the session later, like people are really trying to pour something out instead of just performing, So I wanted to bridge that gap of like, I'm gonna pour something out, but still hit the points to like win. And I just wanted to win with that reasoning of like, I didn't win like solely because of my moves or whatever. What actually motivated me was just to spread that message of like, you can be vulnerable, you can have your own expectation of yourself. And my expectation was I just wanted to truly be in the moment. Like there was not a moment where I doubted myself in that tournament, not even 1 second when I was dancing. So when we were talking about the perfect rounds earlier, each round was like perfect because in that moment, of course, when I look at it now, like, oh, I'm way better now. But in the moment, there was no doubt. There was no doubt. There was no one that I cared about besides the moment and the music and whatever I needed to show through my creativity. Our God is a creative God, and I think the highest way to show worship and praise is to be creative, like, if our God is a creative God, then we are called to be creative, Like it even says, like in scriptures, I think it's in Romans, where it says, like, if you need evidence that God is real, just look at nature. Like, God is like the greatest artist. And if we are made in his image, then we are called to be like some type of artist. It doesn't even have to be with art or dance or movement. It could legit be like with film work. It could legit be just, even if you're in a day job office or whatever, you being creative of like showing up early, maybe buying food for everybody at the company, like that's creative. You know what I mean? Like you can be creative through that. Oh, that's my alarm. My bad. Time's almost up. But that's what kingdom like creativity is for me. It's like it takes that extra step. Like you could be creative, but when you have like one of the greatest like commandments, which is like love God and love others, like you can use that as motivation to be creative, you know, because you want to serve people through your creativity. So why not serve God with that? And it's like, for me, it's one of the funnest ways to serve God. And it also deepens my relationship with God, because again, if he's creative, I really feel like when I'm in my creative zone, I'm really praying to like the Holy Spirit, or praying to God, like, yo, so what are we gonna make today? You know, like when we feel that aha moment, or like something told me to do this move, like let's really ask ourselves, what was that something told me? You know? And for me, I already know that's God. Like I already know that he proclaimed himself as like a creator. You know? So yeah, I think that's my favorite part of my relationship with God, like, because of course we have our relationship with him as father and son, you know what I mean, as our relationship with the Holy Spirit, but my favorite relationship is us in partnership with creating content, you know. This is Beast, aka Baby Tight-Eyez, working with humble kings. So be inspired, inspire others, and also love God and love yourself.